Well, Meghan Markle was supposed to release a new Netflix series on January 15th, but it was delayed due to the California fires. And so it's apparently going to be released in March. So today, what I'm going to take a look at, and this is due to one of my subscribers recommending this. So thank you. We're going to take a look at how is this going to do? How is this Netflix series going to fare using the astrological energies. So today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be taking a look at the Vimshottari Dasha, which is like the planetary timeline that they use in Vedic astrology. I'm also going to be looking at that new timeline called the Chara Dasha as well to try to ascertain, how is this series going to do in March. Now, I find it interesting that it's occurring in March because there's a lot of important astrological shifts that are happening with the Saturn transit. Saturn's going to be changing signs that month. So that's kind of interesting that it's scheduled for that time. But we're going to be focusing on the planetary timeline, the Vimshottari Dasha again, and the Chara Dasha in this chart reading. So for those of you that are new to my channel, make sure you like and subscribe. I do practice Vedic sidereal astrology, my interpretation of it, of course. You'll notice that the chart looks different from the Western astrology chart. If you're interested in a personal private reading where we could look at your Vimshottari Dasha and even your Chara Dasha, check down below for details. I do Calendly Zoom appointments. And then I also do recorded readings, and those are by email. And any statements that I make about Meghan Markle in this reading, remember, astrology is for entertainment purposes only. And all these statements are just my interpretation of the astrology chart. So let's go pull up the astrology chart of Meghan Markle. And I'm going to show you the Vimshottari Dasha. We're going to talk about that. And then we'll talk about the Chara Dasha next. So let's pull that up for a moment. All right, here's the chart of Meghan Markle. And we're going to focus, like I said, on the planetary timelines right here. So the Vimshottari Dasha and then the Chara Dasha, which is from Jaimini astrology. Now, the thing to focus on is we're really just going to focus on the timeline for March of 2025. But with the Vimshottari Dasha, she's going to be in the same astrological period for all of the 2025. So it's going to be the same for that. So Jupiter, Venus. So the karma that really focused on during that time is going to be the Jupiter karma, which is over here, and then the Venus karma over here. Now, remember this period right here, the Jupiter period's the Mahadasha, which is the really long period. Some of these Mahadashas can go, 20 years when we look at like Venus Mahadasha. So they're quite long. And then these sub periods are typically 1 to 3 years. So that's the time, the timeline. So Jupiter's going to go Jupiter Venus. The next timeline is going to be Jupiter Sun. Then it's going to go Jupiter Moon. And then eventually she's going to enter the Saturn Mahadasha. And that's going to be a whole nother story. But let's just focus on that because we're just we want to answer the question about how is this Netflix series going to do? Well, the first thing to notice about Jupiter in the astrology chart is Jupiter's in the third house. It's next to Saturn, which it can restrict what Jupiter's doing in the astrology chart for sure. It's in a neutral house as far as dignity. It's in the sign of Virgo. The third house does have to do with small business and entrepreneurship. So there is, if we look at it from a larger perspective, there could be like slow economic gains during this period as far as entrepreneurship, but there's a lot of obstacles because of the Saturn karma right here. Okay. The other thing to point out is that we have to take a look at the rulerships of the planet in Vedic astrology, not just the house that it's in. So Jupiter, it rules the sixth house and it rules the ninth house over here, which is Sagittarius and Pisces. The sixth house rulerships shows difficulty again. It can show like going in the debt. It can show conflict. This also can, by the way, manifest as conflict within her relationship with Prince Harry. So I do want to add that it's not necessarily has to relate with the Netflix What's going on with the Netflix special. It could be a lot of other factors going on there. But overall, I mean, Jupiter's kind of a mixed bag when I look at it. It's in the third house, which again, third house is small business, entrepreneurship, self-earned wealth. Like if you made a documentary, it would be under third house or 11th house. So but Saturn's there, and Saturn is the eighth lord, so there could be a lot this there could be 10 the things could fall apart with Saturn being there. Now let's talk about the next period, which is the Venus period. The Venus period, by the way, that's from June 2023. This is the more acute energy, by the way. So June 2023 to February 2026. So all of 2025, she's going to be in the Venus period. Now, Venus as a Karaka, and Karaka means it's kind of what the energy of what the planet represents. Venus is the planet of luxury. It is the planet of money. It is the planet of grace. So when we talk about wealth, Venus is the planet of wealth. However, there's a lot of factors here. It's not so cut and dry when we look at Vedic astrology. So the first thing to notice is it's in the second house, which could represent money on the surface. It could represent more assets and things like that. But there's a couple of negative factors, which I'm going to show you here in a moment, that are going to kind of cancel out a lot of what Venus represents in Megan's chart. So it's kind of void everything out. The first thing I want to bring up is it's not in a good sign. So Venus is in the sign of Leo. Remember, Leo, the sun and Venus are not really planetary friends because Venus represents like luxury, human relationships, pleasure, and then sun represents truth, dharma, and righteousness. So that's why the energies can clash. So Venus doesn't really do that well in the sign of Leo. So it's not really in good dignity. And then I'm not going to show you on the chart, but I'm going to bring up there's something called the Navamsa chart when we look at planetary strength. And Venus is debilitated in the Navamsa chart. So it shows that Venus is not really that strong at delivering, what it potentially could. Like if it was stronger, it could bring money. But in this case, and what I mean, like money, fame, obviously if the if the documentary does well, she would get more deals, right? That's what I'm making the assumption of. There would be more money, more deals, more things. So that's what I'm kind of saying money here. But it's not in good dignity. It doesn't really have a lot of strength. Now, Venus, it rules the fourth house and the 11th house. It's like it has the potential, but it's kind of like lost all of its steam, so to speak. There isn't like a lot of energy there. Like you can have a planet that's pretty well placed and there's just no energy behind it. The planet's very weak. So you kind of get like very minimal results. And that's what I see. I kind of see more minimal results with Venus. The other thing to point out is Venus is in a position called it's 12 houses from the moon. So if we made moon the first house, which is important to do in astrology, is you look at moon as the lagna as well. You'll notice that Venus is 12th from moon. It also is 12th from Jupiter as well, and that's the Mahadasha lord. So there's kind of this idea of like there's a lot of expenditures of energy. For example, like she might put a lot of energy in this Netflix project, stuff that energy that you don't see behind the scenes. She might be like thinking about it, planning about it, and there's kind of like not a huge energy return. So all that energy expenditure kind of doesn't come back as much as she would like. So that's the difficulty there. Now with this, I see with the Venus and the Jupiter period on the Vimshottari Dasha, I see like very it's not going to be as successful as she wants. If I was just basing it on Vimshottari Dasha, I would say it's not going to be really, I don't feel like it's going to be as successful. It might be moderately successful, but for somebody who was essentially attached to the royal family, or well, she is still attached to the royal family. I mean, she's married to Prince Harry at the making of this video, but you would think it would do way better than it is. Like it's going to underperform is what I'm saying. It's not necessarily bad from say like Netflix's point of view, but it's like underperforming maybe what their expectation was. That's what I'm feeling with this. So I feel like it's lackluster with this. I don't feel like it's some mega hit or anything. If anything, I feel like there might have been more momentum with the previous documentary that came out in 2022. What was that one called? Harry and Meghan. Maybe that one was had a little bit more momentum. Now let's go. So let me give you the dates. Let's pull up the slide for a moment. And I'm going to give you the dates on, again, the Vimshottari Dasha. So Jupiter Venus is the period that she's in. Jupiter, remember, that's the larger period. That's 2015 to 2031. So that's a really long timeline. It's kind of a general energy. Venus Antardasha, June 2023, February 2026. We kind of already dissected all of this. So I feel like with this, it's very lackluster success. There's kind of like the wind is taken out of the sails with the success of this endeavor. Now let's go talk about the Chara Dasha, which is Jaimini astrology. And for any of you that are new to Vedic astrology, I want to try to break this down as simple as possible. So just if you don't understand, just relax and just enjoy, watch. You don't need to know about what is Jaimini, what is all this. I'm going to try to break it down and just put it in really plain terms as best as I can. So you can just know, okay, is this good or is this bad? So that's what we're going to be doing right now. Let me go to, we're going to pull up the chart, what's known as Chara Dasha. All right, so that's going to be over here, the calculation. So when I'm pointing over here, this is essentially the computer program that makes the calculations. Now, it would take a whole nother video to explain like how it calculates. That's why essentially we have computers, right? We just want the computers to calculate for us. So that's why we want it. Okay, so in the Chara Dasha, okay, so she's currently in Scorpio Taurus, but she's going to change to Scorpio Aries. And by the way, Chara Dasha is the sign. Okay, it's based on signs, not planets. So during the time of this Netflix series, she's going to be in Scorpio Aries. Okay, Scorpio Aries. So the first thing we would want to look at is the sign of Scorpio, which would be over here. And also what we'd want to look at is over here, there's this thing called the padas. And this is something that they calculate in Jaimini astrology. But if you look at all these numbers and these houses, and I'm kind of circling just a few, they represent, so basically the house, like for example, Scorpio represents the fifth house. Well, it doesn't just represent the fifth house. In Jaimini astrology, it's going to represent the fifth house, and it also has the first house energy in it too. So that's the first thing to point out. Now, the Scorpio energy, which is, I believe it's 7 year, I believe it's a 7 year dasha. We're going to look at the slide in a moment, but that's actually really good for fame. Okay. And let me pull that up for a second. The Scorpio energy is actually really good. I mean, fifth house is like fame, fortune. So let me pull that up. So it's 7 years. Okay. I just wanted to make sure. So Scorpio Dasha, which is based on sign, it's based on fame. Now, does it mean that she's going to absolutely, acquire this fame during, right now in March of 2025? No, it doesn't mean that. It means that there's this hope or there's this potential within this planetary period that she will reach a certain amount of fame. She already does. When we think about fame, I want to put it out this way. Fifth house represents fame. You can be famous by being infamous. So I really want to let you know when the astrology chart is trying to tell us, it's trying to tell us fame. So Harry and Meghan, they actually get a lot more fame just by being tremendously unpopular. People don't like them. People, they have all this vigor or this vitriol, or they're very angry about. Well, like they said, there was a famous media mogul that said, all publicity is good publicity, right? Even bad publicity. So when we talk about fame, there's a lot of fame in this Scorpio Dasha, which is between 2021 and 2028. There's a lot of fame, but that doesn't really spell out, oh, this documentary is going to do well. We have to look at the sub period, which is more of the narrow defined energy, and I do see problems there. So let's talk about that. When we talk about these dashas, I want you all to know it's not like this one monolithic energy. It's not like this 8 years of Scorpio Dasha is just like fame, 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 fame. It's going to have all these ups and downs, which correlate with the sub periods. So the sub periods are like going to be your ups and downs during this period. So that's why it's important to look at the sub period. But Scorpio being said, by 2028, she could have a certain amount of fame or notoriety. It could be even, be infamous in certain ways. I mean, if you think about it, and I'm gonna take a moment here. If you think about it, even if it doesn't work out with Harry and Meghan, they get divorced, everyone on the planet is gonna remember Meghan Markle. Lover or hater, everyone's going to know her. Everyone knows her name. And it's going to be for the rest of her life. People are going to follow her just like a lot of famous people, who knows. Even if Harry and Meghan break up one day, they might even have a show where they're just hanging out with Meghan, like that's the kind of stardom she's always gonna have a certain amount of stardom. I don't think she's ever going to completely fade away to where we don't see anything anymore. So Scorpio, Aries. Now, Aries, that's interesting. It is the 10th house. The 10th house, again, that's good. However, let me tell you, the eighth house is, remember, I was talking about the Padas over here? The eighth Pada is in the 10th house. That's destructive. That's not good. This could actually be a disaster. Okay. This could be a potential disaster. And I noticed it's starting in remember February. Looking at the February 2nd of 2025. That's right before. This could potentially be very destructive. So, like, if this eighth Pada wasn't there, I would say, based on the Chara Dasha here, I would say, oh, sorry guys, she's gonna do really good. She's gonna have actually really good, really good. But the eighth house is there. Could be potentially a big, it could actually be a really big flop. Because whenever the eighth lord is involved, it tends to lean towards destructive. It tends to lead towards misfortune. That's why it's called one of the Dashtana houses. You have to understand that. Remember when we talk about the Dashtana houses? These are the evil houses in Vedic astrology. These are 6, 8, and 12. These houses, they give loss, they give destruction, they give bad things, bad omens. Okay. So she's having this period where remember, the Pada just is that energy of the house. So the energy of the eighth house is within that 10th house in Gemini astrology, which can show transformation, but through destruction. Now, I do want to bring up, because I've made other videos about Harry and Meghan. This could signal bad for the marriage as well. Okay. So, for example, and it people have been talking about Harry and Meghan having a breakup possibly during 2025. Well, here's the deal. If they have a breakup, let's say right on the launch of this documentary, a lot of the attention, a lot of the wind could be taken out of the sails. I know I said that phrase earlier, of this documentary, because people are just going to be focused on the drama, and watching the news and watching the stuff. They're not going to want to see Harry and Meghan together anymore. They're going to be focused on the split, So if there's problems, and then all of a sudden this documentary launches, it might lose a lot of its gusto. People are not going to want to watch it anymore. So I predict that this is not going to be very successful based on everything, all the factors of Vimshottari Dasha, Chara Dasha. I feel like this is going to be, if anything, it's just going to kind of draw, what do they call that when it just kind of breaks even? It's going to be not as successful as they hope. So that's what I feel with this, because we got to balance out all the factors together, the Vimshottari Dasha with the Chara Dasha. So that's something to consider. Now, let me know what you think down below in the comments there. I'm very curious to hear what all of you think. Let me know, and I will see you in the next video.